welcome back to a new episode of the Women's Strength Society show. Today with the topic, how to get rid of that stubborn belly fat.
It's pretty simple, actually. But
we are going to take like 30 minutes to explain it to you.
Yes. But at the same time, I find it very interesting because it's one of the most, not say research, but talked about topic.
Searched,
on
search topic.
Yeah, probably search as well, too. That's right. Especially on like big podcasts. And if you look, it's very interesting. If you go on the diary of the diary of your CEO page, you look at the episodes that have the most views, and you are going to see like a lot of them are about belly fat, how to get rid of belly fat.
For the topics that are about like health and fitness, belly fat.
But also in general. On his page, and I mean it's the second biggest podcast in the world, so it's definitely something that a lot of people are watching and are trying to get an answer on. And I always find it interesting because he invites people who are not really in the trenches coaching people. They are long past that point. And I feel like a lot of them, what they talk about is pretty far out from what's actually practically needed and day to day to make that change happen. So we are going to go into that.
Let's fucking go.
Yeah. So the first thing, and I know that a lot of you will not want to hear this, but the first thing is, if you want to lose belly fat, then you have to lose fat, which means ultimately you need to be in a calorie deficit. And with that, I don't mean that the only solution is just to eat less and less and less and less. There are many ways to create a calorie deficit, by walking more, by training more, by eating less certain food, by eating less at certain times and that sort of things. But all the mechanisms that are presented to you on those big podcasts that tell you this is what you have to do, ultimately they work because they put you in a calorie deficit, in a state where your body is burning more than what it's getting in terms of energy. And very often people who talk about that present their way of doing things as something that is unrelated to calorie intake, but in fact it is not. So even the people who talk about, insulin or about fasting or about inflammation, then all of those are tied to the amount of calories that you are eating. And ultimately what drives a loss of body fat, even for visceral fat, the fat around your organs, around your belly, ultimately it is a calorie deficit. And this is something that sometimes it really drives me nuts, because there's like some very, very big name, especially one lady in the perimenopause space, who constantly bashes calories and says like, hey, this is something that doesn't matter, or not that it doesn't matter, but it's actually doing a disservice to women to focus on caloric intake, and instead you should focus on magnesium and vitamin D and omega-3, because this is what's going to help you regulate inflammation. And the visceral fat, that's the very bad fat that creates a lot of inflammation. This is how you take care of it. And then, of course, HRT.
It's like having like a burning house, like a big, big burning house, and trying to just like, blow it with like, try to dim the fire.
You come like with one water bottle of 1 liter, and then you're like trying to throw water.
Splash a little bit of water on it. Not saying that those supplements cannot help and that they have their place, but it's also always important to go from, what are the big rocks? Let's focus on the big rocks first, and then we can go into detail with those things. So.
And I just want to touch on that because...
And because a calorie deficit can help to reduce inflammation as well, right?
Thank you.
Exactly. So and that's why I'm saying like big rocks, the calories deficit that you are creating and then losing the body fat through that kind of mechanism is going to bring down inflammation in your body. That's how we see also a lot of women, for example, have less, and I know that's a side topic, but less PMS and period cramps when they're going through a fat loss phase. They're losing body fat. And I'm not saying those ladies are like, getting shredded, because there is a point where the body fat is like too low, of course, which we cannot sustain long term. But overall, improving your body composition by losing body fat will create a better environment in your body and lower the inflammation that your body is experiencing.
Yeah, amen. Freaking amen. And this is something that's missed in that conversation about calories and about inflammation and reducing body fat and that sort of things, is they go like so in depth in some of the mechanisms behind reducing carbohydrate intake or intermittent fasting or some of those vitamins that they then recommend as supplements, but then they just dismiss calories because I don't know why, because that's something that you do if you want to just shrink yourself, and now it's the era where women needs to have muscle and take space and that sort of thing. But then they never talk about the actual mechanism behind the calorie deficit and what's going to trigger in your body. And so you need to treat the calorie deficit, like the caloric intake and manipulating this. You need to treat that as a stimulus for your body, and not something that's, I don't know, political or ideological or emotionally loaded or whatever. It's really like one way that you can change the state of your body. And when you are eating less than what your body is burning, then you are going to shift the type of fuel that your body is using, and this is going to have an impact on inflammation. And this is something that we see, not only with the PMS topic, but also we see improvement in blood markers like cholesterol and glycemic control. And this is something that is going to happen because of the amount of calories that you are eating is managed in a way to put you in a deficit. And this is something that's really like not talked about enough, I think, and that people don't really have on their radar. So thank you. This is exactly what I wanted to mention. Perfect.
A+. A+ for me.
Yes.
I'm a good student.
Now, this is like the underlying thing that you need to be able to reduce body fat overall, but it is also going to help you reduce body fat around your midsection, around your organs, and subcutaneously. So you have to make the difference between subcutaneous fat and visceral fat. So one is the fat that you have underneath your skin, and the other one is the fat that you have around your organs. And they behave slightly differently, but both are going to react to a calorie deficit. And the difference is mostly that, the time that it's going to take to burn, quote unquote, burn it off is going to be slightly longer if you want to do both. And we don't know which one is going to respond first to the calorie deficit. It's also not super easy. Like, you could do a DEXA scan, but if you don't have access to that, then it's difficult to know where fat is kind of melting on your body. And so if it's still there, then it means that you just have to keep going for longer so that eventually the fat has melted. But then, as I said before, like, there are many ways to create a calorie deficit. And there are two things that we constantly see that could have like massive benefits when you are in a state of calorie deficit that people miss, and that could really make a difference in how effective it is. But also to be a bit more specific about reducing the visceral fat, the fat around your organs because of its behavior. The first one is meal timing.
Big one.
Big one.
Yes.
And interestingly, like we are going to just say it and own that, but the intermittent fasting crowd has it backward, like completely backward. A lot of what is practiced is like skip your breakfast and then have all of your calories in the evening.
I think also because it fits better into, society,
cultural norms,
norms. People nowadays are busy in the morning. They're kind of like rolling out of bed, getting the kids ready, maybe hitting the gym, going to work, like all those things. It's very, very easy to also be distracted by all those things and not have that much hunger, like not experiencing it, because you're just like, boom, on it. And then in the evening, you kind of like, you calm down, you come home, you relax, you're like, eating is for a lot of people also some kind of stress relief. So you're trying to compensate. And so it's much more accepted to eat more in the evening instead of taking a long time in the morning to get your breakfast ready and sit down and just chill and have that first big meal of the day before doing anything else.
And I don't even think that it has to be like you sit for a long time and really like extend the breakfast, but it's really
you don't have to brunch.
You don't have to brunch, but it's really just about like getting a proper first meal to start the day. And the reason why this is what we preach and why we think it's a better way to go about it is there are multiple reasons. The first one is we've seen it work multiple times with ladies who then switch to having the breakfast and keeping more times between dinner and going to bed. And in general, they just tend to be able to tolerate more calories.
Yeah.
That's what we observe. Then the second thing is there's also pretty solid research that shows that especially in population with pre-diabetes and diabetes, but also obesity, that having a restricted time of eating, but that favors more eating earlier towards the day and then you stop eating after 5, then you have the next day better glycemic control, you have improvements in biomarkers and even a slight improvement in BMI and body fat, which means that simply by shifting your meals more towards the first part of the day and having enough time between dinner and bedtime, then this is something just by doing this that's going to improve your metabolic state.
And also, like if you have a sleep tracker, right? If you're using an Oura Ring or something similar, right? You can just do this little experiment and have a dinner closer or a bigger dinner closer to bedtime, or just a dinner closer to bedtime. Doesn't have to be big. You can do both. And then one that is like 3-4 hours before you're going to bed, and see like how your sleep is being affected by it. How is your resting heart rate going over the course of the night, your HRV, all those things, depending on like what kind of device you're using. But I've observed that quite clearly, that the closer I'm eating to bed time, the higher my resting heart rate is throughout the entire night, the longer it takes for me to really calm down. And when I'm eating earlier, I'm already like in a very chill mode, low resting heart rate from the very, very beginning of the night, which is super important to like have that like restfulness from the night.
Yes, because the early hours of the night is also where you are going to produce more growth hormones. That's going to help repair a lot of stuff in your body. That's also going to be helping burning fat. This is also where you have a bit more production of testosterone, which is going to be great for muscle production. Even women produce testosterone. There are also other benefits to that, but those early hours of the night are pretty important. And if your body is just like busy with digestion, then your night is not going to be as restful. So that's even another point that's important and that matters in terms of meal timing. That I hadn't thought about. The one that I had in mind was more about how the visceral fat behaves and what is kind of its function. And so its function is actually to provide the energy throughout the night that you need to repair the cells that have been quote unquote damaged during the day. And this is for your muscles if you have been training, but this is also largely for your lungs, because your lungs have a big function in terms of detoxification. But also when you are active and when you are breathing like 20,000 times per day, then this is an organ that's just like very active and it's being used quite a lot. So during the night, it needs that regeneration, and the energy that you use to do that comes from the body fat around your organs. Now, what happens is if you are, not eating throughout the day, then your body is going to actually tap into those reserves to have energy, because when you are active, then you need the energy. And then at night, after you've eaten most of your calories, pretty close to dinner, then instead of using the calories that are stored around your organs, then your body is going to put energy back in, because then this is what you are going to do the next day again, and you will need to have some reserve into your body fat cells around your organs, so that you can provide energy to the rest of your body when you are most active. And so instead of going through the day with energy coming in from food and then not touching those reserves, so that they can then be used during the night to provide the energy that is needed to quote unquote repair yourself and get through the night, then you do the exact opposite. And mechanistically, this is one of the main reason why we are so big on meal timing, and why we really preach time and time again, like, hey, get a big breakfast within 60 minutes of waking, and really try to have 3 to 4 hours between dinner and bedtime. When we look at studies, very often the protocol that they use is capping or stopping the eating window at 5 or at 6. So it's not even crazy late. And most of the time it's enough to have the benefits that they see in those studies. If you're like very convinced that fasting a bit more aggressively is something that is beneficial, then you can also stop eating earlier. Or if you're like a very early bird and you like to go to bed at, I don't know, 8, then stop eating even earlier than that. But try to really have at least 3-4 hours between dinner and bedtime. This is definitely going to make a difference once you are in a calorie deficit as well. And sometimes, only making that switch is enough to already have a body fat redistribution effect. So it means that it's not stored everything around your midsection, but it's stored differently. A lot of people also, just last thing on that topic, when they start doing this, they say like, hey, I stop because I get more hungry throughout the day.
Yep.
To which we respond, yeah, it's a sign that you actually need more calories during the day.
Which is great.
And it's a good thing. It's a sign that your body is not just like compensating and that you are running on stress hormones the whole time. And you should then eat a bit more during the day, so that you are able to, once you're finished with your dinner, 3 to 4 hours before going to bed, that you are able to to go through the night without waking up again. And sometimes it's tricky because we all have like different physiology, and there are certain people where doing this very consistently can also backfire slightly. which is a topic for a different podcast. But if you really do that you are not hungry at all throughout the whole day, and you are very diligent about having that, window of 3 to 4 hours before going to bed, and yet you still wake up in the night or you get to bed and you're super hungry, then having like a very small snack of maybe 100 to 150 calories of protein and a tiny bit of carbs is something that can be helpful, and you'd still be able to get most of the benefits that you have from eating earlier throughout the day. So
100%, because I just wanted to add to that. We have that like general meal timing structure that we recommend, but then of course based on the individual, we are definitely making some changes here and there depending on what's going on in their life, when they are training, how is their day-to-day busyness, like what does it look like when they are coming back from work and all those things. And I had that with one client this week where I specifically went into the food diary and had a look at the different meals she had, what she had in terms of like macro distribution. And she already had like 3 meals, 2 snacks, light dinner. So she was respecting kind of the meal structure that we recommend and also the meal timing, but she would still find herself being a little bit too hungry before dinner. And this is where we then started, instead of just like increasing the overall calories and being like, okay, cool, sounds like your body needs just more food, and giving her more food. What I see a lot of, or what we also did like before we tapped into like this whole more how to improve the metabolism and how to use meal timing to do that and support that. We would also just be like, okay, let's increase your, I don't know, carb intake or whatever it is, your overall calories. But with her, I was like very specific where I wanted her to increase her carb intake. So I would tell her specifically for this specific meal, I want you to have 40 grams of carbs more. And I'm pretty convinced that it's the right move, and I'm pretty convinced that it will make a huge change in her hunger levels throughout the day. So yes, we increased her calories overall because she needs more food across the day, which you mentioned before, which is great, which is a great sign. But then also being specific of where are we going to add those extra calories that come in can make a huge impact on hunger levels, satiety, but also training performance and overall recovery from your training sessions.
Yeah, if you are always more hungry around lunch, which is my case, for example, then it's probably a good idea to have a bigger lunch and follow those cues. So I just wanted to.
Yeah, 100%. And sometimes, and that's the thing, right? We oftentimes hold ourselves back from eating, and I also understand that, because if you're eating too much, you know that you are gonna gain weight, and you don't want to just gain body fat, like unintentionally gain weight without it being stopped ever, right? And so we are a little bit like cautious when it comes to like, oh, I'm experiencing hunger. Should I really like give in? But then have a look at, when are you having more hunger, right? When does the hunger show up, and try to then front load, like eat more in the first half of the day and see how it is improving for the rest of the day. Are you experiencing any changes? Instead of always skipping that and kind of suppressing the hunger signals and being like, oh no, okay, I'm fine, blah, blah, blah. And then at the end of the day, you are like, oh my gosh, give me the chocolate bar.
Yeah, because very often what we think is then like, hey, if I'm hungry now, then how hungry am I going to be later on? So I have to be able to spare some calories for that. But sometimes if you interrupt the hunger signal throughout the day, then it's much easier later on to be less hungry. So use those guidelines, and then also pay attention to how you are, how you're responding to that, and what your hunger and appetite cues are telling you.
And just on a side note, because I get a lot of questions about like meal timing and being unsure, like how exactly to do that and like set that up. We have a recorded workshop. It's called Macros Made Simple. It's packaged up in a little course so that you can really build out your personalized structure. So it gives you your maintenance calories, maintenance macros, the meal timing structure that we recommend. And it also helps you to go from all those meals that we recommend across the day to actually building out your meals. Because I think that's most of the time the tricky part. It's like, okay, they're telling me I should have 30 grams of protein for my lunch and 60 grams of carbs and 15 grams of fat, but how do I build those meals? And so we have created a custom GPT where you plug in your numbers and it gives you your full day of eating, respecting your macros, respecting your favorite foods, and respecting the meal timing that we recommend to support like better body composition and metabolic state. So if you want to grab that, I will put a link in the description below.
100%. And it's also going to help you do that based on your favorite food, as you said, I think. And this is the last point that's also very important. And I can tell you how surprised I am because what I hear all the time from women is just like, I'm doing everything, I'm eating super healthy, I'm hitting my protein, yet my body is not changing. And like the eating healthy part is definitely not up to the standards that we actually want to have if your goal is really to improve your body composition.
It's crazy because I think it's the most how do you say that? I don't have a clue. The one thing that we talk, or not complain, but talk about the most, we as coaches, looking at clients' food diaries or in general like what they're doing, it's the food choices. And it's it's not that the ladies that come to us are eating burgers and pizzas all day long and margaritas. It's not like that. So I do think that they genuinely think that what they're doing is eating clean and healthy.
But it's not.
But it's really not. And every time I'm doing a full day of eating review for a client, I did it the other day inside the Strong Babes Club, our group coaching. There was one lady, she was like, hey, it's hard to sustain the deficit. I want to snack all of the time. And then she shared her full day of eating with me because I asked her to do that. Because I'm very honest. I will give you like my very straightforward, blunt opinion on like why this is not working. And it was so easy. I was like, there are like 5 things we can change like right now. And it will make a huge difference, not only to how you are experiencing going through this fat loss phase, which is huge, but also the results that you're getting out of it. And it's something that it happens rarely that someone comes to us and we don't have to be like, hey,
come on,
the food choices, like,
stop kidding yourself.
Exactly.
Yeah. And so what we have to say is first and foremost, like, eat more vegetables. And we have those challenges that we've been doing like for almost a year now, and even before that, but specifically with those, we had a pretty in-depth intake form so that we can really understand like, okay, where are you currently, what is your situation, and then when we go through that, we can really see pretty much in detail like what is your eating habits, patterns, how does that match the training, and so forth and so on. And it's very, very rare that someone is actually eating like 4 to 500 grams of vegetables every day. It's 1 pound of vegetables roughly, and so that would be 2 portions of vegetables at breakfast, lunch, and dinner. And this is something that's just needed if you want to be able to transform your body, to lose fat easily, and to stay in a calorie deficit consistently. But then after that period of time, once you are out of the calorie deficit, if you want to maintain those results, then you still have to manage hunger somehow. And so first thing is just like eating those foods is going to give you much more volume. And hunger works on 2 fronts. So one is the amount of calories, like there are chemoreceptors in your body that are going to sense like how much protein, how much carbs, how much fat is coming in, and what's the total amount of calories that you are eating. And if it's too little, then you are going to get a signal to your brain, and it's like, hey, you have to eat more. But then you also have mechanoreceptors, and they are mainly around your stomach. And when the muscles of your stomach are being stretched, then your body knows like, okay, there's a lot of food coming in, so I don't have to be hungry.
Yep.
And eating those foods like vegetables, but also fruit for your carbs, is something that is going to give you more volume per calorie. And this is something that's going to help decrease hunger and manage it better.
And we're not only talking about cucumber and lettuce. So just to be
100%.
clear here, because I mean, yes, those are like vegetables, but they're also not like high in fiber. Like there's not a lot to it. Those are like water-based vegetables, which you can of course eat. Nothing bad about them. I had them this morning for breakfast, but they cannot be your only veggie source.
100%. And so the other thing is about fiber content and micronutrient content, so minerals and vitamins. And vegetables and fruit are just like packed with those. And this is something that you want to have to support gut health. And this is where I'm going to close the loop with the topic of the day, with the belly fat thing. Is the visceral fat is something that does produce more inflammation, and it puts you in a vicious circle, because then if you have more inflammation, then you have slightly less insulin sensitivity, and because of that, then you are going to store more easily body fat instead of putting the nutrient inside your muscle and that sort of things. And then it contributes to having more inflammation and blah 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 blah. And so one big part of it is gut health, because if you have better gut health, then your body is going to produce anti-inflammatory compounds that go then through your whole body, and it is going to help you counteract that. And then it's going to be easier to create the calorie deficit, easier to maintain good body composition, which is going to put you in a positive, like instead of a vicious circle, it's going to be a positive feedback loop.
A happy circle.
And this is really something, like there are so many things that comes to mind, like then your bile flow is going to be better, and through that you are going to have a better hormone profile, and because of that you're going to be able to perform better in the gym, recover better, your sleep is going to get better, and so forth and so on. So it's really interconnected, and gut health is going to have a systemic effect. And that's going to be a positive one if you take care of that. It's going to be more negative if you just pay attention to hitting your macros, but you don't really make it a point to eat the veggies and to stay, most of the time with whole food, unprocessed whole food. And even for carbs, like a lot of flour-based products, like having some breads here and there or a wrap and that kind of stuff, it's okay, but it's just going to be better if most of your carbs come from like root vegetables, potatoes, if it comes from whole grains, if it comes from legumes, it's just going to be a better choice. It's going to give you more micronutrients, more fibers, and overall it's just going to create a better environment for the goal of reducing body fat.
100%. And not only, I mean, you said like, hey, this is also super important for the like deficit, to make sure that you are in a good place. What I see a lot is a lot of highly processed stuff, especially when calories are already low. And I think one thing that women don't understand is the same woman who is eating like 1,800 calories for her deficit, right, to be in a fat loss phase, and the woman who's eating 1,200 calories to be in a deficit, which can happen 100%, they will have probably slightly different food choices, because the woman with 1,800 calories, she has just a bigger budget, so she can have a little bit more room for processed stuff. Someone who's eating 1,200 calories in a deficit, which is a pain in the ass, let's be honest, that kind of woman needs to eat like 99% whole foods every day, because you have such a low calorie budget. You need to make sure that you keep your body in the healthiest state and the less stressed state you can. And you will do that by providing your body with enough minerals, micronutrients to come in, instead of having protein powder, which I see a lot, or some powder to make a chai latte, and then milk 3 times a day with everything, and then here and there some chocolate and a protein pudding and yogurt. And I mean, it's not bad. Those foods are not bad, but you need to be very strategic in what kind of foods am I eating when, right? I'm eating different foods on like 2,600 calories or 1,600 calories. I would pick different foods based on that, based on the phase that I'm in. And usually when I'm eating 2,600 calories, I would eat all of the foods that I'm eating at
1,600 calories.
1,600 calories, plus then I would add stuff that I would not eat at 1,600 calories. So there is a like minimum base of stuff that I need to get covered for my body, and that includes the fruits, 200 to 300 grams a day. That includes the vegetables, 500 to 600 grams a day. And this is like, those two things are the stuff that we don't see, and that we will point out the first thing when we have a look at the food diary of someone.
100%. Like I'm just like going over and over and over again in my mind, and I would love to see on those intake forums from the challenge, like every woman who comes to us and is like, yes, I'm eating like 500 to 600 or 500 grams of vegetables every single day. I would love to see that, but it's just not the case. And every time I'm just like, this is missing. Like, this is a big part of the puzzle. And then, like, of course, you are not going to get the results that you want if you are not doing that, because it really makes a pretty big difference.
Yeah.
So yeah, calorie deficit overall, meal timing, eating within 60 minutes of waking up, and then having 3 to 4 hours before going to bed. And then lastly, making sure that you eat your damn veggies and your fruit, and that you really make it a point to eat a lot of nutritious food, nutrient dense food. That's going to be mostly like unprocessed stuff or very little processed food. And then the rest, yes, have it from time to time, but don't like, don't trick yourself into thinking that just because you hit your protein target, then you are eating healthy, because it's just not the case.
Or because you see someone on social media, right, showing their full day of eating and then their abs and the flat belly, and they have like nothing there, no like body fat stored around the midsection, and you're like, oh, this seems to be like healthy eating. And so you're trying to mimic that, and you think that this is healthy eating for you too. But if you're doing that and you're not getting the results, then of course there is a mismatch there. And so don't think that just because you have seen something somewhere else, where you maybe also don't know the whole context of the person. Has this person ever had belly fat, right? There are also a lot of also women out there on social media who have never had the issue of carrying too much body fat. So I see a lot of fitness creators, fitness coaches who were maybe more so on the leaner side when they started, or more so like skinnier side. And for a person like this, going to like being more muscular and defined, it's a little bit a different game than for someone who needs to lose like 10 to 15, 20 kilo to get rid of a big chunk of body fat. So don't confuse that. Be a little bit aware of like who you are following, and can you really relate to that person and that exact story? Like, can she show you the way in terms of, hey, what she did helped her to get from X to Z, X to Y. I skipped one letter.
I thought you were going to like X to the Z.
X to the Z. X to the Z for exhibit.
Yeah.
Or not, right? Because there are just people who would show their like full day of eating. It consists of no veggies, maybe a little bit of fruit, probably 3 meals a day at least that are sweet and not savory, and very little veggies, and a lot of processed stuff like shakes, like protein powder, but also, I don't know what they're all drinking, but kind of their
Debloat something.
debloat drinks.
Yeah, of
like
course.
some powders, like stuff like that.
Of course, you then need
zero
a
or
debloat.
zero sugar something powder. I don't know. I'm like, it will probably not be the best for your gut if you're eating that every day or multiple times a day.
Yeah,
Right.
And I mean, when you get like one serving of the zero sugar, I don't know, Coke Zero or a Sprite Zero, and then you get like the high protein bar or high protein shake, then they also have some artificial sweeteners, and then you get some like protein powder, like EAAs for your workouts, or something like a pre-workout something. It also has some taste enhancers, and it just adds up over time, and this is not creating like the best environment for your gut, and ultimately it has like a negative impact on how your body is functioning. And so we'll gladly be the bearer of bad news today. Just like eat like a proper adult, and yes, sometimes to time, then have the pizza, have the cookie, have the ice cream. We do that too, but just like, don't trick yourself into thinking that skipping the veggies and skipping the fruit because there's sugar and fruit sugar, then it's good for insulin, and because of that it's a healthy diet or something. So you just need those stuff if you want to get the most out of your nutrition. And that's all I have to say for today.
Yeah, and if you want to build out your personalized nutrition structure with the meal timing and the macros that you need, very straightforward, then check out the link in the description for Macros Made Simple. Until next time, bye-bye.
Bye-bye.